Have a good night, sir.
Thanks.
You're all welcome.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 20, 40, 60, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Hey, thanks.
You're welcome. You guys have a good night.
Thanks.
Alright, we're finally going to head down to the MGM and play one of those football promos they've been running there. Let me explain it to you real quick. It's Thursday nights, Sunday nights, and Monday nights. They give you a stamp card, and it has 5 little blank check things. You need to get 2 pair, trips, a full house, straight, and a flush. You got to use both cards. There's got to be $40 in the pot. You complete all 5 stamps before the end of the game on the given night, you will get $500. If you complete all 5 stamps before midnight on the night of the game, you'll get $100. My camera does die on the way in, so I don't get really any cool shots, but get a few hands from the session. It was one of those really weird sessions where people just chipped me up. I was getting away with all my bluff lines, and I was getting way more value than I should have for pretty marginal hands. So nothing super exciting as I'm looking through the hands here, and I did miss some of the good stuff. I just never had the camera ready. I'm going to go ahead and go through what I did get, and then we'll move right on from there. Unfortunately, after looking at the really limited hands that I did get from this session, there was just nothing particularly interesting or stimulating. Really boring hands, chipping up small pots, getting check raised on ace-high board, folding, positional raising 6s, c-betting ace-high flop. It was pretty boring stuff, small pots. There was some interesting stuff in the session, but unfortunately I didn't have the camera ready for it. For fans of the previous high hand breakdowns and the format we were using for that, fear not, the next episode coming up in just a day or two after this one is uploaded. I've already been working on it. I got a lot of good stuff, poker content, some really interesting hands and spots, and stuff that I can really break down the thinking process on. So you will have to hold out for that one. We do end up playing a semi-respectable 5.5 hour session. No luck on the card. I hit the flush and I hit the 3 of a kind, but I missed out on the other 3 stamps. End up making plus 125. It looks like a little more than that here, but I was in the game for 4 from having to add on 1 pretty early in the session. It's freezing cold tonight, and I'm heading out to play at the South Point. The rodeo is in town, or it's going to be in a couple days. It's a big, huge thing, lasts like 10 days. Last 2 years, I found the games around the rodeo to be really good at South Point, and that may be coincidental, but we're going to go try to find out tonight.
Man in the shadow.
Excuse me, sir.
Unfortunately, we didn't get any poker content for this session. We just didn't get any hands on the camera. The seat I was in was directly facing the front desk, well, from my back. So filming at the table was kind of an area of gray in the card rooms. I don't think it's super frowned upon. I don't think it breaks any particular rules. It certainly doesn't compromise the game at all. But when you got the floor dudes at the desk right behind you, it's a little bit over the top to just whip out the camera and be taping. I think you got to practice a little bit of subtlety. So, unfortunately, it was a good seat, and so no hands from this one. So in lieu of the hand histories, let's talk a little poker talk here. I want to talk about 2 things really fast. Someone asked me a question recently about loss limits in the cash games, and also whether you should leave where you're up to lock up a win. Let's get into loss limits first. Is there an amount that you should stop loss, so to speak, at the table in a cash game session at 1-2, 1-3? I guess it applies to any stakes. Alright. For me personally, that's going to be somewhere between 2.5 and 3 buy-ins. Why? If the game's good, it's tempting to keep ribbon money out. But the truth is, if I get down more than 2.5 or 3 buy-ins, there is that little phantom of a thought in the back of my head that even if I run really good here, kick ass. Thanks. We're going to be lucky to even break even on this session and maybe be a slight winner, but generally still in down despite playing good and running pretty average. And that will carry over to where the next day, next several days, you might have it in the back of your mind that you are down a pretty significant amount right there. I try not to focus on the results of a session. I can definitely lose $400 or $500, go into the next day without any impact whatsoever on the game. But if I'm down 900 plus, there is that little thing in the back of your head that if you play good and run pretty average and put in a decent amount of volume, you're still very often going to be looking at a break even or possibly even a losing week. So I would recommend, whatever you're comfortable with before you feel like it negatively impacts your game. For some people, that might be $150, where they sit down at the 1-2 table, and if they're down 150, it's going to affect the way they play. They're not going to feel good about playing later. And you know what? If that's your number, just stop there, come in fresh the next day, buy in full, be ready to go. Some people, there are people out there that can drop 2K. I would challenge that they were never probably playing good in the first place if they drop that much at a 1-2 table. But they can come in the next day totally not mentally compromised. I'm not sure, once again, how much of a game they had to compromise, but it does not affect them. And that's okay too. You're way up in a game. Should you leave at some point to lock up the win? Conventional poker knowledge and most experienced players are going to tell you no. And the reason for that is that in a perfect world of poker, devoid of human nature and emotion, the conditions that might be leading you to having a big night then are probably going to stay in place to where you should maximize the amount of volume in that situation. I'm going to deviate from that advice and tell you that, yes, there's a lot of times you should probably leave, and I'll tell you those times here, and I'll explain why. There's some people that at some point feel they have too much money on the table, and if there's other big stacks, that if they lost that amount in one hand or one pot, it would really affect them. And that's going to affect your decisions. You're not going to get value in some spots. You're going to be worried that there might be a situation where you lose control of the pot and get stacked for all that. If that's going on in your head, right away, it's fine to get up, book a win. No one's stopping you from walking to another poker room or waiting an hour or so, getting back in another game with a shorter stack you're more comfortable with. But the real reason I'm going to disagree with that general consensus is that the conditions that might have led to you to run that stack up are going to vastly increase your isolated risk of ruin for that particular session. What I'm saying is the conditions at that table are probably highly volatile. You may have ran a pretty good side of that, run up a really huge stack, and if you stay a few hours, you may run that up even higher under the same conditions. You see what I have to deal with? The problem is, if you're telling yourself that under those conditions you can just stay a few more hours and minimize your risk, and still be involved in the way that you built up that stack, you're probably lying to yourself. You're going to get involved in more big situations if the table dynamics are the same. And if you run on the wrong side of that, it's going to wipe you out fast also. So what it really comes down to is do what you're going to be comfortable with. Not just for that session, but what are you going to be comfortable with moving forward? If losing over a certain amount, like I said, is going to make you uncomfortable going forward and you're going to be a little bit down and not bring your best game on future sessions, just stop wherever that stop loss is for you. If booking a win is going to build your confidence and help you come in and play stronger in a future session, stop wherever you feel comfortable. Your mental state going forward in future sessions in the long term is so much more important than the results of an individual session. Alright, wrapping it up at the South Point. We end up playing 3.5 hours. Rack up. I'm only in the game for 300, so end up making $369 on the session. If you've noticed from watching the videos, on a bit of a heater here, nothing huge, but winning a super high frequency of sessions. Actually, haven't lost a session since episode 1, which is pretty, I would say, unusual, and I'll talk about that in upcoming episodes, and inevitably we will suffer a loss soon. We'll see if that's something minor or something major, and then I will talk about losing sessions in poker. That's going to wrap up this episode of Taking Vegas. Like I said, really cool episode coming up. I've been working on it right now. It's pretty much done, and you should see it in about 2 days. So make sure you subscribe, like the videos, share the videos. Definitely leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see more of in the city of Las Vegas, poker-wise. If there's any topics you want me to cover about poker, especially at the live low-stakes level. And I'm about to head out to play as soon as I upload this thing, and we are going to see if we can keep this streak alive that we kind of have set off on after a few small losses in episode 1, even though we still netted a profit. Let's try to play good poker tonight and see how long I can stretch this thing out.